It's known as near-death experience, and someone who's made a special study of the subject is British neuroscientist Peter Fenwick.
Near-death experience is surprisingly common. In the Gallup poll in the States, 15%, that's 15% of Americans have had a near-death experience, and 5%, that's 1 million Americans, have been in what they call the light. It's an amazing number of people.
And what is it these people actually see and feel?
You may leave your body and watch what's going on down below. You may walk around an accident site, for example. And then you'll go down the tunnel. Now, the tunnel is most interesting. It's either described as a blackness and you're floating, but some people see a real tunnely tunnel. Then you see a spot of light at the end of the tunnel, which gets bigger and bigger. You may go into it. And as you enter into the light, it has the most wonderful characteristics. It's enormously bright, but it doesn't hurt your eyes, and it's composed of universal love.
In June 1976, he was a scientist working in the former Soviet Union. One day, he was rushed to hospital. He'd been hit by a car. Surgeons took him to the operating theatre, but could do nothing for him. He was declared dead.
It was fear. The fear of darkness, fear of non-existence. Somehow I felt horrible, horrible pressure around, and I felt around me a lot of dark colors and darkness, that blackness. I mean, any black can be imagined for human mind, but that black was unimaginable.
Rodonia's body was put into deep freeze to await an autopsy. But all through this time, he recalls an incredible inner life. He claims he went back to his house where he saw his wife grieving for him.
My wife is crying. She's very young. She has a child, and she thinks, what can I do now? I saw her thoughts. And that was the most wonderful thing what's happened to me. I could see people's thoughts. Telepathically, you are grasping their thoughts. It's not that you see as a picture. It's you grasping, you see what's happening within their brain.
Most extraordinary of all, George Rodonia's mind travelled to another hospital where the wife of his best friend had just given birth to a little girl. But all was not well.
This baby was crying constantly and never stopped crying. So I came and I said, why are you crying, if you understood me? And she said, because she had a broken hip or twisted hip.
The significance of this information was to emerge several days later. Back in the hospital, Rodonia's body was prepared for autopsy. It had been in the morgue for 3 days, and his death certificate had been signed. The pathologist took his scalpel and began to make the first incision.
I opened eyes, and this doctor looked, and he said, oh my God, he's alive. And I had some air coming because lungs were collapsed, and I had to fight to move something in my esophagus. And that's what people understood I was alive, began to scream and run around.
George Rodonia recovered from his ordeal, but he vividly remembered his extraordinary experiences. Above all, the crying baby, the daughter of his friend. Rodonia immediately alerted his doctor that something was wrong.
You see how she's crying, why don't you do something? And he said that they tried everything, but they didn't know, so he left. And it was right. She had broken, twisted hip.